and welcome back to another episode of the Vital MX post-race show. And this is not just a post-race show, this is a post-season show because the 2025 AMA Pro Motocross Championship has been and gone. And no real surprises, Jett Lawrence and Haiden Deegan are your champions. This is of course a Budds Creek reflection, but we're going to take a slightly different turn with it and overlook the season as a whole on a manufacturer by manufacturer basis. But in doing that, it will give us an opportunity to touch on the Budds Creek hot topics like Tom Vialle, like Jorge Prado, and whatnot. But just a different spin, so don't be concerned. All of the stuff you want to hear will be in here, just packaged ever so slightly differently. Anyway, what isn't different is the continued support from our loyal sponsors, those being DeCal Works, Yamaha Motor USA, Yoshimura, Motorex and Fox Racing. Thank you to all of those companies for all that they do for us here. Of course, this is now episode 28 of this podcast, and we're still backed by those very, very loyal and quality companies. I'm your host, Lewis Phillips, as per usual as well, joined by Michael Lindsay. Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
How was your Budds Creek experience?
My Budds Creek experience was great. I watched it from the couch this year.
Did you go last year? When was the last time you went to Budds? I couldn't remember if you were there last
year. I had the 20. I went in 21 and 22. I can't remember if I went in 23. Did not go in 24. Did not go in 25. I think I went in 23. 21, 22, 23. I went.
Okay. Well,
It is. Would you say you quite like Budds?
I love Budds.
No, I do think. I don't know. Even whether you watch on TV, whether you're there in person, we kind of joke about some of the nationals blend together a little bit in your mind. But Budds has a nice, unique feel to it. I definitely dig it. Yeah, makes me kind of wish we had destinations there again.
Yeah, although, well, okay. So I love Budds Creek. It is my favorite outdoor. Not really sure why. It just packs more wow factor for me than any other venue. Like the panoramic view, I don't know what it is exactly, but it just hits me in the feels a little bit more than the others. However, there are some items that I don't like. One, the parking and the organisation. The reason I'm now on this tangent is I have no idea, A, how they ever hosted the Nations, and B, how they could ever do it again. I mean, I presume that it wasn't so much Budds Creek in 07, it was MXGP, but
I know they got massively in trouble in 07 because they basically cleared a gigantic amount of trees on one side of the property for parking without any permits, and I think they buried all the trees on one side of the property, so I know they got massively fined, like local government level, for doing it. So lack of organization, like, getting proper permits and things of that nature. It happens.
That I don't like. I don't know why the Budds Creek staff wear these ridiculous T-shirts with these ridiculous colours, like they've just stepped out of a 1980s rave.
Beasley's son that's in charge now is like big on retro color and really over the top stuff like that.
That's cool. Don't like it. Looks dumb. Looks
cool.
Ridiculous.
I don't like it.
Literally looks dumb. So I also don't like that. And thirdly, on my list, I really do not like the amount of fences. It seems like there's fences everywhere you go. And you have to navigate the fences, and you have to figure out where to go around the fences. It's very much like a maze.
Did you try to walk around Ironman at all, or did you only hang out in the tower?
No, but I'm not talking about like trackside fences. I more mean like from parking to
interior.
Pits to...
Yeah.
I'm not talking... why that wouldn't matter, would it?
I'll say Ironman. It's everywhere.
But yeah, just too many fences. Like from the moment you park, here's a fence. I need to get there. I need to walk all the way around this fence. It's a lot of fences.
Let me ask you this. Did that feel like the longest day of racing you've been to in a while? Between the women's mode, the red flags, the mess of a restart that took forever. After a while, I was looking at the clock and I was thinking, if anybody was standing there, I was just like, how late into the day does it feel there at this point?
It also, the last round, no matter what series, I don't know if this is just me, but it can't just be me. I think it is a generic feeling. I feel very deflated at the last round, almost like a bit sad that it's coming to an end, and like I feel a little bit like, emotionally attached. So it just drug out those sad feelings.
Just made you got to just feel that depression.
It was a long goodbye, Sometimes it's best to just say goodbye and leave, and it just felt like it wasn't letting me go, I wasn't letting it go, it was a whole thing.
Oh, just the long, awkward hug you can't get out of.
But, anyway, if I'm saying that those are my complaints, you could say the Budds Creek is quite a good national, because ultimately those complaints don't mean much. So, as I said off of the top, we're going to do this a little differently. And the reason why is because ultimately, if we run through the results, how much have we said about Jett as an individual, Hunter as an individual, and whatnot? So the way I want to structure this is this. We're going to run through manufacturer by manufacturer, give them, in our opinion, separately, whether it was a pass or a fail for each manufacturer as a whole this season. So not just one team, not just one class, as a whole. Because yes, Honda obviously gets an A+ and a pass or whatever you want to call it. But once you get to Yamaha and Triumph and Kawasaki, maybe not, that's quite clear cut. But once you get to those, it could be a little bit of a debate. And then from there, we can go into the riders. And as I said, Prado's Budds Creek, Vialle, that's coming. We just got to get there in order of the manufacturers. But
question, are we counting Supercross at all or
no,
only Pro Motocross?
What's going on with my mic? No, this is Pro Motocross. This is Pro Motocross season review. We'll start with Honda because, of course, Honda is the manufacturer of the moment. The manufacturer champions of Pro Motocross, or whatever that title is. And before we go further, this is a perfect opportunity to tell you that not only have Honda dominated proceedings, but also Yoshimura, because they are quite literally powering Honda to this success. And if you head to yoshimura-rd.com, you can find similar power and potential for your machine. And as I've said for a few weeks now, a lot more on that website for your bike than maybe you would have first imagined. So if you're a bit of a petrol head, a little bit curious, I recommend you head over there, and that's yoshimura-rd.com, and see what there is for you. I'll go first. Very obviously, Honda gets a pass from me for their season. Do you even want to say, or are we just going to presume you also say that?
Also a pass. I mean, the obvious, with the 450 performance, with Joe being the only guy in 250 that, regularly could do anything in relation to Deegan, which is a bright side for them going forward. And then even Hymas's pace pre-injury. Across the board, I don't know how you could... it would be better if Hymas didn't get hurt, if Joe was there a little bit earlier in the year, but compared to any other OEM on this list, how can you complain?
I find it a little bit curious or sad how we do forget about Hymas. Like when I was running through, I just was looking at the results and I was like, yeah, Yamaha and Honda were the only manufacturers who won 250 outdoors this season. And then I was like, wait, but who won Thunder Valley? Because that wasn't Joe. And I was like, who? I was like, oh yeah, Hymas. Like you do forget that actually Honda, as brilliant as they were on track, they have a very capable contender not even racing. It's not like their injured guy is a support act. He's very much, he could be better than Joe, who knows? To be honest, we're kind of trending in a direction that means that 2026 outdoors may be Honda versus Honda, similar to 450s have been as of late.
Yeah, an exciting proposition for them, especially where, the post-Lawrence 250 era was a bit of a question mark. I think, a lot of us, like Hymas, I've always said this, like Hymas was going to be a bit of a slow burn. It would take a while. Joe was just always a question mark. Everybody's always kind of had that. Can Joe do anything other than be competitive at the end of the season when there's no pressure? So for it to come very full circle where, the Lawrences have taken the reins of the 450 class 1 and 2 now in this championship, and for them to now look at their new investment in 250s and be like, kind of, taking on where they left off with the Lawrences of having a very high chance of, both of them being potential contenders on their Supercross coast next year, and then a very good chance of them being, the 2 title favorites for Pro Motocross season next year. They got to feel good about, just like I said, their overall investment, their continued push in the 250 class. Chances under contract for next year. I know Joe's, it isn't done, and there's been speculation, but he's got a 2-year deal that's about to be wrapped up, and then he'll be staying put.
Shameless plug, there isn't much to say about Jett or Hunter at this point, but on press day, our interviews with both were actually very interesting. Jett made it very clear that he, in fact, does care about statistics. I mean, we know that because he's lent on 72 wins quite aggressively. But even the intricacies of, like I said, what's your motivation to even be here? And he was like, my win rate. I don't like my percentage dropping. So he's clearly paying close attention to what's going on. And for Jett's sake, with a Budds Creek victory, his 450MX win rate went from 88 to 89%. So it was worthwhile. And then Hunter was quite candid about whether consistency is actually appreciated in this sport, because I do genuinely, and this is in no way me pandering to Hunter or just trying to find something nice to say, I am genuinely impressed that he has not missed the top 5 in his 450 career. That's now 22 rounds. Like, that is genuinely impressive to me, because ultimately, yes, it was because of a crash, but Jett missed the top 5 and Chasers missed races. Like, it's very easy to not be that consistent. Yeah. And I do think that we, as a sport, both from an internal perspective, teams, media, but also a wider perspective, fans, etc., need to maybe value that a little bit more and give our props, because it's quite phenomenal.
Again, I think the sport that does that the best, in my note, is NASCAR, because the field is so big. There's so many winners a season. They are very big on very commonly talking about, hey, this driver has X amount of top 15s, X amount of top 10s, X amount of top 5s. Like, that is a rolling statistic there that everybody keeps very close track of. Because, again, depending on car and team situation, our sport, again, we only look at the top, the winners, the top 3, the top 5 a lot, where drivers that are still on the up and coming rise, that are maybe not as good equipment, they are applauded for, hey, this guy's been 15 top 10s this year. They are applauded for that. There is notoriety based around their progress. There's a lot more, like I said, eyes on people's progress, their trends, their consistency, in relation to their experience and their equipment.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe Hunter is the one that bucks this trend and makes it more prominent, because it is staring us right in the face. And even more impressive is that he has had 6 last year and 6 again this year. So in 22 starts, rounds-wise, 12 of them have been second-place finishes. And, of course, last year to Chase, this year to Jett, that kind of means that no matter who's out there, he can kind of shake it out to be the threat to whoever's winning, which I think I've maybe worded that in a slightly negative way. I don't know if that was as positive as I wanted it to sound.
I think it was.
Missed the podium 5 times in, again, 22 rounds. It's all quite impressive. I don't know. I do think there needs to be more of a value on that. But anyway, I think we're done with Honda. Well done, Honda. This was kind of why I wanted to do this format, because we can just say, well done, Honda, and move it on. Let's do Yamaha, because this was my motivation to do this, because I wasn't even thinking about it podcast-wise. I was thinking about it generally. Yamaha dominated 250 outdoors, fair to say? Or no?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
No, well, a rider did. The brand, I would argue the brand did not. The team, if you're looking, I guess there's no one you have to look at. Are you looking strictly at the team that represents the brand the most closely, which is Star Racing, of course, or you look across the organization?
Well, I think
BarX had positives, Club had positives, but as a whole, Star was a little bit of a rough experience for outdoors.
Well, did Deegan dominate outdoors?
Yes,
then
Deegan
Yamaha did. That makes it that simple. But what I was thinking is, does Deegan winning the title make up for the rest of the miscomings? Like, going winless in 450 outdoors is a surprise, a massive surprise, and has to be considered a fail. As you alluded to, obviously Davies, Anstey, Brown were out for a lot of the time, which left them with an inconsistent supporting cast to Haiden. So I just don't know if overarching, if you consider Yamaha's outdoor season a success because you have to, because of Haiden, or a failure, it sounds harsh, but hey, that's the opposite to a success, because of everything else around it. As I said, if I'm a judge pitching for failure, going winless in 450s for the 3rd consecutive year, might I add, is a massive surprise and a massive letdown.
There's 2 things, like I said. I mean, you could just lay back again on Hayden's performance and say pass. I think something else that can at least argue a little bit is, like you said, it's winless in 450. If this sounds weird, if Eli was staying, I would consider it more of a failure. You know what I mean? Because of what you're looking forward to with the situation. With him exiting, with Haiden moving up, there's a few things there that kind of makes it a little bit easier to scratch off. I'm on the fence because yes, winless in 450s, winless for the first time in Eli's 450 career, 250s looking forward outside of Haiden. Yes, Davies was in a sense gifted a moto when he got a podium, but the rest of his results were mixed. So many of the other guys in there were just all over the place. Okay, remove that Haiden conversation. Even if you can say, if you want to give this year a pass, I don't know if next year is going to pan out the same way without him. Yes, he's still with them and he's going to a 450, but that's going to be a whole nother challenge. And then you look at just how everybody else has panned out. It's tough, but then back to consistency. J. Coop, talking about the year as a whole, he is now the SMX regular season champion.
I don't think the word champion. I think top seed.
Top seed, whatever.
It's not a champion. That's a bit. I think that's overselling it a little
regular
bit.
season points winner, whatever.
Top seed. He's a top seed. There's no champion for this. He's a top seed.
Every time you say top seed, I feel a little weird.
He's a top seed. I think that is the official terminology. He is seeded number 1. But also, I mean, I feel like I've had this conversation a lot on this podcast. I don't know how to feel about J. Coop because I feel as though I hold him to a high bar. Yeah. And ultimately, the fact that he has never finished top 2 overall in a 450 outdoor event is very surprising to me and very much a letdown because I do personally believe that J. Coop is capable of winning motos and being where Hunter is. I know I've used that comparison before. So even J. Coop's season specifically, I would say that was not a massive letdown, but that was average at best.
Shortcoming because even going back to last year, if early in the last outdoor season, you would have told me by the end of this pro motocross season that J. Coop does not have, as you said, a second overall or better, or a moto win anywhere to his credit, I would consider that a bit of a letdown because same as you, me and you have talked about on this pod for coming up on 3 years now. Even in his first 450 season with Star, me and you both championed that, hey, if Star's not willing to invest in, we were talking about other teams that should. Like, I think we're both in the same boat where we have a lot of belief in him. There's a certain ceiling you can see that he could reach that makes you believe that's possible. So I agree with you. While it wasn't a negative of a season, I still feel like he came up a little bit short of where his potential lies.
Yes, I would agree with that. And Tomac, if I could have spoken to Tomac after Budds Creek, my main question to him would have been, do you think you put too much emphasis on wanting this win? Because maybe it was all smoke and mirrors and the power of misdirection. But I do genuinely believe that Tomac came into Budds Creek fired up, motivated as hell, and was willing to lay it all on the line to get the win and stop himself going winless. So I wonder if that was true, if that maybe worked against him and he put too much emphasis on it and therefore it kind of all fell apart a little bit. Because it was, I mean, statistically, it was his second worst round of the outdoor season. He rode good at points. Like, it's not like the riding was terrible. This wasn't a Millville. This wasn't an instance like that. But bad starts, whatnot. Even bizarrely, the second motor, he was stuck behind Webster for laps on end, way longer than he should have been. And then on lap 16, he randomly dropped his lap time by 2 seconds, blew past Webster and dropped him. And it was like, where's that been? It was very similar to the conversation I had about Unadilla Moto 1. So
in general, we've had that discussion a couple times this year, and I can't remember if both of us, or I know I've at least asked him, is, if he sees this year the amount of times he's gotten caught in other people's paces being a legitimate problem. And he has stated so, yes, particularly in first motos. But it's just unusual because you see what he did to Webster when he finally uncorked it. It's like he has all the ability in the world. We know Eli does to get himself out of situations like that. But the amount of times this season he has found himself stuck in someone else's pace and just kind of sitting there is a bit of a head scratcher.
But it just makes zero sense when he managed to pull out the 202 and just go, okay, I'm no longer stuck. Like, because it's not like he passed Webster and then went fast. He just randomly was behind Webster and went, now I have 2 seconds extra a lap. Bosh. Bizarre. Bizarre. Also, he was quite revealing on press day, just saying that I can't remember how I framed the question exactly, but I essentially said to him, are you having to reevaluate what success means to you? I.e., do you now leave and go a podium was a good day rather than win or bust? And he kind of paused on it for a moment and then effectively said, I don't want to go there. Not as in he didn't want to answer the question, as in he doesn't want to let himself get to that point.
But what's tough, I think you would agree with me, his way of carrying himself in some of the press conferences the last couple of rounds is a little bit worrying, because there's times where, I guess you always also have to be able to believe it, buy into progress. But some of the rounds he seemed, compared to Eli F. past, a little more settled and a little more okay with a podium and just being a little closer to the Lawrences. Yes, maybe D-Town, no matter what, he's framing himself that I can't settle for this, but there are times where he has outwardly been a little bit more comfortable with it than definitely the Eli of the past, kind of flirting with it. He's, on one hand, he says he doesn't want to, but on the other hand, he's almost flirted with it a little bit with the way he's carried himself a few times this year.
I think this goes without saying, and we're not doing individuals, but if you were grading Tomac's outdoor season on a pass or fail, you lean fail, correct?
Yes.
And full disclosure, I think Eli would as well. So
yeah, that's not anything again, I think there's multiple factors in there between the injuries he's come back from, father time. It sounds like we're being a dead horse, but it never had tried to do a full outdoor season on this platform, even though we think of him as a title winner on the Star. This was a redo that he's never had to deal with. So yeah, on one hand, it's not I'm not saying it's a complete and utter farce, but yeah, in terms of is it a success or not, no, I give it a fail. And again, if Eli follows through to what he said to you, I think if you asked him the same, he would consider it a fail of a season if he had to give it a grade.
I am so interested to see what Tomac we get in SMX, because I'm so into. I don't know. If you told me that you're from the future and Tomac was on the podium every week and won the title, I'm genuinely not surprised. If you told me you're from the future and Tomac was a 3 to 5 place guy, nice, I'm not surprised. I think the potential is there for him to come out and be the best guy. I also think the potential is there for him to come out and be the type of guy we saw at Budds Creek. I don't know. Of course, I don't. Well, I would lean on Supercross more so than outdoors for a reference point for SMX. And the last time we saw Tomac in Supercross, to be honest, I forget. Obviously, we went San Diego, A2, Glendale, Tampa, and Tampa was the injury. San Diego was a win. I forget what he did. A2 and Glendale. I forget if those were amazing or if they were good or if they were average. I forget that.
A1 5th, San Diego 2nd, A2 7th, Glendale 4th.
Okay, so I don't remember it. Yes, you know what? Now I do recall us entering Tampa and being he's had one podium and it was a win. That's weird. I do remember that being a subject. Well, anyway.
The other thing I lean off of is a little bit of his return outdoors last year, 7th at a Budds, 3rd at Ironman, but then he came in kind of firing at Charlotte at SMX. It was a 2nd, but just the overall performances were good. So yeah, maybe we see what does he call it, your recency bias. You look back to how the outdoors SMX transition worked for him last year, and it was, a positive.
Okay, so I went first on Honda, will alternate. Yamaha, pass or fail? It's honestly the hardest one because they won the championship. Yamaha is the 250MX champions. And
there's a part of me wants to rock the boat, but I have to say pass because you won one of 2 available championships. You're gonna go fail, aren't you? I can be persuaded.
I don't want to go fail because my head is telling me won a championship, that writes off every single other issue.
Yes.
But then my heart is telling me they went winless in 450s, and the door was open because ultimately it's not like Jett had a perfect season. There were multiple winners in 450s this year. So the door was there. The door was open. It's also difficult because fail sounds so harsh. If there was something in between, I'd go there. But that's also why I quite like this game because
this seems like a very open and shut case. This game, this format seems simple when you propose it to me. I'll
go fail. I'll go fail to be different then because winless in 450s is quite shocking, and I stand by that because, as everyone will probably remember, pre-season I was one of the more reluctant predictors of what Eli would do, but I still said he wins 1 or 2 races for sure. So like there was even with me being hesitant about Eli's potential, I still without doubt felt that there would at least be 1 win in there. So that coupled with Nate's inconsistency, Moserman was great, good to great to be fair. So that's a big tick. I'll go fail by a hair. Let's say that my polling was 51% to 49%.
I could be with that.
And just
I
to be
feel like I'm
interesting.
51-49 the other way.
Let us know what you think of this rating, or what you would give it, because it is difficult. It is difficult game.
It would have been a little easier if you gave me an A, B, C, D, E, like A, B, C, D, E, F, but man, pass and fail.
Yeah, that's boring. But ABC's boring. All
right, can we just go straight to a fail brand on the next one?
Well, okay.
You know who I'm talking
about. Let's go
about,
to Kawasaki. Well, actually, before we do, we said Yamaha enough there, but Yamaha Motor USA is a loyal sponsor of this podcast. And
you're going to use that as your segue?
No. I just realized, what is the point? Like, why would I not talk about Yamaha when we've just spoken about Yamaha? It'd be random to lodge it in somewhere else, wouldn't it? No?
I just figured you'd shy away on the segue there.
Yamaha. 250 MX champions once again. How many outdoors? I think Haiden won 7 of 11, sorry? Yeah, 7 of 11.
This is your most well-prepared I've ever seen.
Haiden won 7 of 11, and actually on a Haiden point, but this is also a testament to Yamaha, Haiden was top 2 in every single moto except for 1. That is an overlooked stat for sure.
Something I wanted to mention, since we're talking about him, just something in general. This goes back all the way to his first professional Supercross season when me and you were doing these. And I remember talking about, people see especially the first year, there were moments like the raw speed was there, but it would be sketchy and this and that. I kept saying, like, this man's consistency is what will carry him, because I think I went through his lap times and I'm like, as sketchy as it looks at time and as much as he's sending it, as he always would say, his best to worst lap times were like the best of anybody in his opening mains, even as a rookie. And just in general, like starts, not always whole shot, but like the consistency at least of never really having to come back from very bad starts, consistency in results, consistency in qualifying, consistency in everything. There's a reason why he's the champion. It's just obvious. Nobody can touch the full bag of tools he's brought to the table.
Yeah, very well put. But speaking of Yamaha again, when you think racing, you think Yamaha, because if you look around the world this weekend, between Haiden winning the 250 MX title, MXGP, obviously they are well supported across every single class there, from EMX 250 to MXGP. Lottie Van Drunen was second in WMX with a Yamaha. Lala Turner won the WMX title with a Yamaha. And then even if you want to stretch further afield, at the VMXDN at Fox Hill this weekend, Yamaha 252 strokes were out in force and at the front of the field. So Father Time is mentioned a lot this outdoor season. But Yamaha has managed to fight against that and remain prominent and a leader, no matter how much time has passed, and no matter what technology has advanced. So Yamaha Motor USA. Cool. Kawasaki. So obviously, Prado tanks this rating quite aggressively. And let's start with Prado. As shocking as it is that he didn't qualify. Technically, he did qualify, but technically he didn't. That's a weird phrasing, but technically he didn't qualify. As surprising as it is, it's not that surprising because the writing's kind of been on the wall at a couple of rounds. I think it was High Point where he got in on the final lap. Like, this isn't a complete stretch from what we've had previously. Still got great starts. The motos were certainly much better than 43rd in qualifying, but still nowhere near what Jorge Prado should be. No one spoke to him at the weekend. I think that last week's assumption was true, that Unadilla was the final nail in the coffin. I do think that he will be on a Kawasaki in SMX, without doubt. And then I think they're done. And that's where I'm at with Prado, because honestly, there's no point trying to dissect a 10th or 12th place, because it's quite clear that there is no intent on building on this and pushing for a win. Like, very much this partnership is limping to an end, and limping may be a positive way of putting it. Crawling to an end, stuttering to an end, I don't know. But yeah, at this point, the results are merely a placeholder because we're ticking off events, and it doesn't really matter what number goes in the results column. The most important thing is the event's complete. I think that's where we're at.
Can I ask you, have you backed off your place of arguing that the man deserves more respect after Washougal? We had a little back and forth on this pod about your position about how he was carrying himself and handling all this. Have you backed off that stance?
I can't remember what I said. I can't remember what specifically the conversation was about.
It was more about like
I think I just meant generally,
and everybody You meant generally. You meant the team. You kind of said about everybody just needed to, basically that he deserved, in a sense, more respect. That you didn't think that even like his team, you were talking about the messages on the pit board, you didn't feel like people respected.
Oh yeah, that was dumb. That was dumb at Washougal.
But in general, how do we feel about our earlier season stance?
I think that Washougal to now is very different because Washougal, I still feel like there was some sort of forward attempt. And as I said, I feel like we are merely ticking the box of turning up at this point. So it is what it is. Like, I don't think anyone's making any secrets about it either. It's not confirmed that he's splitting from Kawasaki, but as to my knowledge, they are working on that agreement and how that will look and dates and appearances and what each party needs from the exit. Go on.
So I think the obvious I would say there is because the obvious is with what he has said in performances, I know from talking to the team, like there is the ability to end his contract. I think the most simple thing to stand back by, because I've seen people very bluntly like, why is it just not ended? Why is it not this? I think a big one will be the way this is handled on the way out. And I think a big part of that is the team, because Cowie has taken its licks over the years between even like comments after Villo and Weimer have left and Reed and different people. And while I'm not going to sit here and say that it's nothing of this is the team's fault, I do think with the way it's ending that they are going to want certain verbiage said in the PR, probably some things said, like basically not just, hey, we canned him. There has to be some responsibility taken by probably the rider in the way this is going to be listed, other than not like the Millsaps where we fired him.
No, I think this will just be mutual agreement to part ways, won't it? I presume that'll be the headline. Because then both sides take blame. It makes it sound somewhat harmonious. And we move on. Whether that transpires to be much more untrue over time when interviews and whatnot happen and we get more details. Obviously, it's not harmonious. I think that's clear to say, but I think they will play it that way. I mean, not to bleed into the Tom Vialle discussion, but it is interesting because I think we are, whether the sport wants to or not, I feel like with these situations, we are kind of like running ahead of what the sport's capabilities a little bit, because this is where like there needs to be a game played in the media and there needs to be like a bit more thought from the rider and team side about how to handle situations, whereas I feel like we've not really had those instances much in the past with both Prado and Tom. Both, like, if I said this to someone after qualifying, if I'm Prado, I'm going, I don't care who it is in a press tent, I'm picking one person I like and I'm doing an interview with them right now because I need to explain my side of why I just got 43rd. And ultimately, again, we'll get to Tom, but obviously Ian Harrison's quote from the press release has gone far and wide. That is one side of the story. But because Ian technically got out in front of it first, it's his story that is being peddled everywhere to KTM's advantage. So maybe now these riders and everything are going to have to start thinking, and when Tom exits the facility, he's like, I need to get my word out there first, beating whatever goes against me. Whereas for whatever reason, I don't feel like that's really been much of a
this
concern.
Goes back to a comment I had before, and I'm not picking on certain people, and there might be one or two people that hear this that fall into this category job that might not quite like this, but I don't mean this fully. It's a little bit wide stance, but I think part of this is on the riders on who they even hire or what they're looking for. management-wise, we've talked about before. I'm pretty sure, as far back as I can go, McGrath is the last rider I know of that had both an agent and a publicist of sort. I don't think enough riders have people advising them on those kind of matters, whether it is, even if it's inside their management, just having somebody that is working towards, making sure their messaging is out there, making sure the riders' words, like you said, are handled, even if it is just one contact, whether it's just a quick social message, whether it's a PR, something of that nature. We're a little bit, either we get lucky if the rider wants to say something post-race, or if the team in a moment like K-Team actually has a statement that kind of points out something that's kind of all we're working off here, where I feel like in a lot of their sports, yes, you would have the team's standpoint on it, and you would still have some sort of messaging from the rider, driver, athlete, whatever you want to call it, that has come from their camp, and their camp has organized that and shared that. But we don't have a lot of that in this sport. We have very little of that in our sport.
And again, it makes no difference to us. Ultimately, we've got something from Ian that explains where Tom went, so we're good. But from Tom's side in this instance, it would have been beneficial for him to get an Instagram post out quite quickly and beat everyone to the punch. Of course, then you get into the grey area of contracts and you can't say certain things, but then the team can say certain things, and how does that work? But maybe that is a consideration coming up now, where contracts are written differently, because depending on how this Prado things goes, the teams are maybe starting to take their authority a bit more aggressively. I don't know. But anyway, back to Kawasaki. Prado's season was an F for you, a Z, a Y. A Z.
Let's find a language that has an alphabet that's longer than 26 and make it the last letter in that alphabet.
But let's put Prado and the 450 wing to one side. Pro Circuit, they didn't have a rider in the top 2 overall all season, but they did have multiple podiums. 4 with Kitchen, 1 with Marchbanks. Of course, 3rd and 4th in the points, Marchbanks and Kitchen. Hammaker ran up front a shit ton, and truth be told, should have had at least 1 podium. He was certainly good enough. Where would you put, how does that sit with you?
Fail.
See, it's harder. That's harder for me, because aside from Kitchen, I didn't have high expectations. So in my mind, Marchbanks and Hammaker exceeded expectations.
For me, of the entire stable, the only rider that gets a passing grade is Marchbanks, and Hammaker had some health issues, so I can give him that. To me, every other person in the stable we didn't even get, talking about cow training nor 450, we just ended up with another missing 450 rider. The Prado experience was just absolute mess. And I do consider, Kitchen arguably should have been where Joe was this season.
Oh, yeah,
Kitchen was in even though we had some poems there, he's in no man's land. So to me, for where he should be, his season is a fail. Masterpool's season is a fail.
I forgot about Masterpool.
Again, adding up the whole equation. Bringing in even Drew's, I have a very tough time with, because Drew's is so up and down. I feel like Drew just is wherever he starts most of the time. Sometimes he comes through, but we can go from number 1 qualifier to 15th, 18th. Drew's was just so all over the place. I'm not as harsh on Drew, but still, Marchbanks is a pass. Seth is kind of a pass. Nobody else gets a passing grade.
Marchbanks said he's got a new second gear, which is why, and apparently the whole team are on this new configuration of second gear, and that's why the starts have been better and were better at Budds Creek. So I don't know what that entails or what.
They did between the break. I know it started with Levi, because I saw them out at Paula multiple days, basically ripped starting line, targeter lights. Mitch was out there personally with Ian Southwell and Matt, Kitchen's mechanic. I know a lot started there. They ran through. I think I jokingly said, "What did you guys try?" He goes, "It would be shorter to list what we did not try." And they carried that into working with Garrett. But I know from the break on, basically, they threw every idea they could at this thing to try to get him off the grate better.
Yeah, I think it's a shorter second gear, so they have to just shift a little bit more. I think, is what I picked up on. I don't know.
Maybe punchier or longer. Either way, like transmission has been a conversation with multiple people lately. That's been some parts have been floating around because it's always odd. Like when you ride the bikes in a pure production trim, there's definitely a missing gap, and I think most people think, oh, as you throw power at it, you can make up for some of that. But I've always been fairly on record of saying this. I think one of Yamaha's strongest points with the YZ250 that plays so well in the Star package. Yes, they have to have a beefier transmission, but their transmission ratios are really, really good. The overlap from second, third to fourth is very generous. They pull far into each gear, but you can kind of screw up and be in the wrong gear a lot. And I can't really say that about most other OEMs bikes. There's always, between second and third, there is always something where one gear is too far away from the other to be used. Like you have to be a little too perfect.
I will say, well, actually, before I go back to Prado, this was a conversation with Marchbanks. Obviously, impossible to do, but judge this from a neutral standpoint. So let's say both riders are exactly the same and your expectations of both were exactly the same. Would you rather be Marchbanks, who got third in the points, but only one podium, or Levi, who got fourth in the points, but had 4 podiums? I actually put this to Marchbanks, and he was a little bit like, yeah, good point. Yeah, I don't know.
If we're just looking purely at that result or everything involved in getting those results?
Well, obviously, if you look at it as the riders as who they are, you just say the kitchen failed and Marchbanks succeeded, so yeah, go Marchbanks. So I guess try and remove that context. Like, is it better to win the war but lose more battles, or is it better to win more battles but lose the war, I guess?
I guess win the battles, because there's a part where, but again, I'm tying this to the riders because of Garrett's size. Like, there are certain things about Garrett's situation where you're like, man, getting that extra bit to push farther than this is going to be tough, partially because of start size, things of that nature. Where with Levi, you feel like the path to racing for a championship is a little more obvious. I mean, Garrett's is obvious because Garrett's got everything together other than he needs to get a start and just needs to weigh 20 pounds less.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks. It's things that are not as doable. But again, that's adding in the riders too much. I think I would go with Garrett's because we always talk about momentum in this sport, and I'd rather be on an upswing of that caliber of a lot of positive and just knowing I can just keep working and I can keep digging away, where sometimes Levi's results have too much of a mystery to me. It seems like on one hand you'd be like, well, the speed's there, you should be able to fix it, but there's also some weird question marks involved with it.
Put me in the same category with Levi as I said with Eli going into SMX. If Levi wins, I'm not surprised. If he gets 10th, I'm not surprised. Like, I genuinely am curious to see what Levi we get. But
so back to the grand part of the question.
Well, no, wait, before we end that.
Okay.
3 points on Prado. 1. Obviously, one thing I do still stand by is that this is not Prado. Like, Prado can be on the podium and win. So
this is George, as James Stewart likes to say. This is George.
Yeah, I don't find that funny when he does that. But
I like it.
So anyone who thinks that like Prado just can't do it in America, that is wrong. However, point 2. In contrast, Prado can qualify for a 450 outdoor on an RM125. I'm fairly confident of that. So yes, he's clearly. I kind of have, without talking to anyone, I kind of have no doubt that he was tanking on purpose to make some sort of point. Like, I do really believe that's what happened in qualifying.
Well, hold on. Let's point this out. Me and you had already talked about this. You got to admit, there has to be a part of the tanking where you wonder, like, again, as soon as we realized that he was 43rd in time qualifying, pretty much all of us tweeted, Instagrammed the same thing, like, holy crap, this man is going to the LCQ. Then, of course, it came to light with research. Hey, he's not going to the LCQ. We have this top 10 seeded rule that none of us have seen used in probably 20 freaking years. If it wasn't for that, let's remove the top 10 seeded rule. Do you think he was like, I'm under the impression, and this is just gut feeling, that he is tanking hard enough that we are not going to the motos. We are sending a message. We are done.
I don't know. I mean, it's impossible to say. I would like to think that he's still sneaking through, because why? Like, You've made your point by going to the LCQ, maybe. I mean, one thing's clear, and it's funny. This is what I think. Without talking to him, purely speculating. I think he's more than happy to tank motos, qualifying, whatever. But it is funny to me that he still goes for it on the starts, because I really don't think he can accept people questioning his starts. I think that is, like, he can ride around in 43rd and be like, yeah, fuck it, whatever, like, I'm just proving a point. But I do believe that he wants to get the whole shot still, because he does not want people saying maybe you're not a good starter. Because rewinding to the start of Outdoors, that was a bit of a sensitive subject with him. So I do believe that's why you're seeing the start still, is because that's the one moment where he's like, just want you to watch this.
You can see it even in Bud's. Like, the attempt is there not only with the start, but even the first couple laps, albeit this is something I've been meaning to mention on pod. Part of his bike setup, holy crap, the man cannot turn a bike sometimes. The bike just stand. It doesn't stay any lean angle. Well, it just sometimes turns a corner into 4.
You know the shipping boat that got stuck in a canal once?
In the Suez Canal, yes.
There was once a Kawasaki rider who sent me that and said, this is me trying to turn my bike in the races, so I don't know.
That's kind of what it looks like. Prado sometimes goes outside to rail stuff and it just stands up and then he bounces like 3 times through the corner. However, the first couple laps, like, there is effort, but as we also joke, you could see it this weekend when Barsha passed him. Hand comes off the bar and we start looking backwards and we're cruising up a hill. Like,
yeah, it
goes to a certain point and we're done.
He is merely there to pass the time.
Yeah. Here's the one tough part, because when people hear you say, like, and I agree with your sense, don't get me wrong, you are not a multi-time world champion if you can't cut it. Let's just start with there.
And also, I genuinely believe if you get Jett on record, off record, lie detector, whatever, and say, do you still believe that Jorge Prado can beat you? He would go, yes, I do think that one day he will be back. Yeah. Like, I genuinely believe even Jett would think that. I don't think, like, they have written him off. Because again, I think that's part of Prado's point. He's not racing around in 7th flat out and being like, that's all he's got. He's making it quite clear that, like, I'm just out here to pass the time. He's making that abundantly clear for that reason. And which is fine, and, like, obviously, I think that Prado's got a bit of a play here. Like, Prado has a character arc in his mind. He's got this all worked out. You're just very much backing yourself into a corner, because with each passing week, you are putting more and more pressure on your first race on that KTM.
Yeah, and I get it. Like, I'm quoting social media comments, which you have to take with a grain of salt. Man, the man does not have a lot of outside support right now. The post even relayed to him qualifying 43rd. I did not see in past races or situations there has been people that have bled through with support. I looked through the 500 or so comments on ours. I don't know if I saw a single post of support. Like, he is somewhat backed himself in a corner in terms of how people view him at the moment, how a fan views him. It is very interesting to see. You know, I know he said he has a character arc. He sees a way out of this. I'm just curious to see how it gets executed.
I think his character arc in his mind is like, I'm tanking this so that when I come back and win on a KTM, it will look even fucking more amazing, and then I'll be able to show them even more. But I do feel I'm reluctant to say this, but like what you said about him having no support. The human side of me, despite it being kind of partially his own doing. Like, clearly he isn't happy with the Kawasaki and the Kawasaki isn't working for him, but he takes quite a lot of the blame for effort. So although it's his own doing, I do still feel on a human side bad for him. Just like I don't like the witch hunt after him on social media. I do genuinely feel bad for him about that. But he's kind of done it to himself, so maybe I shouldn't. Yeah. But like I say, I think it's just I agree.
You feel
reaction.
You feel bad for anybody that people piggyback that hard on. But in this situation, it is kind of like there's a picture of Prado with a shovel, and he has dug this hole, and he will dig his way out. It will just be interesting. I am very curious to see how people take it, though. Like, do people jump on the train heavily when he gets his way back out of this? How do people react to it? And I think a lot of this comes down to, I think it'll make for a great off-season podcast for us to talk about, but I've made this joke already. I have a theory on next year. You know, Chase goes to Cowie, Prado goes to KTM. I think Supercross Chase's season actually goes well on the Cowie in Supercross. I mean, even Prado's on record of saying the bike is good in Supercross, and he thought it was better than his Austrian bike. Chase tested the bike clearly before he signed the contract. Every rider does, let's just be honest. So he rode it on the Supercross track, and he has some value in that, or has some feeling that's going to go well. Prado on a KTM will be, is it fair to say, 18th to 14th on Supercross next year on a KTM? Do you think that's fair-ish?
Yeah. I mean, I'm wondering if you'd want more of this, because...
what I'm just saying is, I think there will be a two-part storyline to next year and reaction from the fans. You will have Supercross where Chase will be successful on the bike and Jorge will be okay on the KTM, and people will say, haha, it's not the Kawasaki. It's all on Jorge. And then we will get to Pro Motocross. And I could actually see the tides turn where it works for him being back at KTM and maybe Chase hits the struggles, because yes, nobody on the Cowie has been super successful outdoors for a while, so there is some question marks there. And if it even just shifts a little bit where maybe Chase has some races where he's third to fifth, just not really kind of putting it together, has some moments, and Jorge is coming out and getting a moto win or hole shotting and being in the battle for the podium, whatever it is, then the storyline flips and everybody's like, Jorge was right.
I think Prado has a perfect season next year. I'm joking.
Jesus
I'm
Christ.
joking. I'm joking. I really hope everyone stuck around to hear me say I'm joking.
The world just, holy shit.
I just want to go on record now. It's what I believe, and no, I'm joking. So,
but do you see my point?
Yeah.
Like, you could get both storylines in the same year. And here's the next part I'll say: neither are wrong or right. There is a part of it that will justify both camps in a sense. Does that make sense?
Yep. And speaking of wrong or right, my love for Prado's Fox Racing gear is so intense that it feels so wrong, yet so right at the same time. From preparation to testing, from anticipation to the start line, it all builds up to this, the gate drop. Just like pros and aspiring amateurs alike, the all-new MX-26 racewear collection is built for the build-up and beyond, with movement-conscious design and material choices paired with thoughtful graphics that celebrate individual performance and style. Each piece stands as a representation of the many moods of mayhem. Fuck, if there's ever a slogan for Prado's season, the many moods of mayhem may have just topped it. Anyway, an expression found in the heat of battle, deceptive calm to complete chaos. Again, if there's ever a way to describe Prado's season, what will you unleash today? Fox Racing, thank you for their support of this podcast, and check out their MX-26 collection. All that they're doing, of course, when Fox unleash new products, new designs, their next innovation, everyone stands still and pays attention, because that is what the history of Fox demands and deserves. And Fox very much all over Kawasaki. Speaking of Kawasaki, pass or fail? You went first last time. I say fail. Yep.
Kawasaki? I said fail.
Oh,
right off the bat. Fail.
I really wish that I had like a paper and a stamp, like so you could hear me go, like stamping a bit of paper with a mark. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got to move on. KTM, one win. See, this is so I think everyone would automatically think fail, but you've got to remember, Plessinger was really good before he got sick and had taken a step up. So I'm like, Chase only did 4 rounds, which isn't good, but then he did win one of only 4 rounds, which I'm like, okay, like a 25% win rate of the season of the races he finished. Okay, and then 250s I don't have much other than Juju was good at points, better than people give him credit for, and Tom I don't know. So like, although I think we're both gonna go fail, I'm certainly much more toward pass than I think most people would be.
I'm in between your Yamaha. Like, Cowie is just is a very easy fail. KTM isn't easy, but there's not a lot to convince me. There's positives, don't get me wrong, but as a whole, there's also a bit of controversy tied around multiple riders. What happened this weekend with Tom just kind of stepping away. Chase's disappearing act 2 different, before the season and then in the middle of outdoors. Like, those are not great overall looks for the team. Juju, like, I think, and me and you talked about this a bit with Supercross's Juju season. Like it's recency bias a little bit, but we looked at how Supercross ended and it was like, oh, is Juju's 250 Supercross season failed? It's like, well, you got to go back to how it was at the beginning. And if you would have thought preseason how that was, Pro Motocross is still weird because it did start good, but it was so lost in the middle, and then it kind of came back around, and then it kind of started to fade again. I could kind of be of everybody in the group. I could be a little bit convinced on Juju's having positive, like you said, Aaron's, but we also burnt Aaron out, which is not good. Then Tom's is just we have a 2-time world champion that couldn't win a race.
I don't know. I mean, on one hand, if you said this was how it was going to go before Parla, obviously it's a fail because you want Chase to win the championship. But then, as I said, I think if you want to twist the narrative and you say that of the races he did, Chase has a 25% win rate, I think you're like, oh, that's not terrible.
I'm going to say this right now because as much as you talk up Chase and what I truly believe in skill, 25%, let's say it was the full season and he had a 25% win rate. I still don't think that's that's a little soft in terms of expectations for Chase.
Okay, so help me. What if he did the whole season, what would 25% of 11 be? 3? Close to 3. It would be 2.8 or something. Which is weirdly only one less win than he did have. Which now I'm confused. Yeah, but then if he did the full season, I don't think the wins would necessarily matter because you'd just come back to championship.
I mean, still, but if it goes somewhere, they split 5 to 6 wins somewhere. I don't consider. I know you're trying to say, 25% win rate.
I'm not.
I still don't consider.
I don't care. I'm just purely presenting it for debate.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. You're presenting it, and I'm telling you,
Okay, let's not talk about Chase though because he didn't race Budds Creek. So the Tom situation. So I was trying to. Tom's starts have been really good lately. Don't know why, but they have been. So Moto 2, I was gonna zero in on Tom out the gate, and I couldn't find him. And I thought, oh, he must be the guy who I can't see because he's hidden by the box. So I just waited for the gates to drop, and then he didn't come out from behind the box. So I found someone from KTM, and this is exactly how the conversation went. Is Tom not out there? Nope. What did he hurt? No, I said, did he hurt something? Nope. And that was it. I was like, okay. Okay, I'm confused. And then I tried to ask more people, and it became even more bizarre. Basically like you were asking for the nuclear codes. And then
Tom has escaped the property. We don't know where he went.
And then obviously KTM's PR did eventually come out. And the poignant quote was Ian Harrison said, Tom decided he would sit out race 2 after lacking confidence in his setup. So he called it a day. Now, as I said previously, crucially, Tom has not spoken public, so this is one side of the story. So naturally, it's going to get more play because it's the only side of the story at this point. But we all must consider that Tom would probably have a very different version of events. Ultimately, I think the base is the same, and Tom wasn't happy, he didn't feel safe or whatever. But I'm sure that Tom would be Tom would have a few more specifics, let's say.
Yeah.
However, on the flip side again, I do have to credit KTM because, and I said this after the Chase statement that they released, whether you think it's complete bullshit or not, whether you think it's true or not, whatever, at least they've said something. Because 9.9 times out of 10, I feel like in this situation, we would still have no idea where Tom Vialle went. And be no idea if he's injured, no idea whatever. So whether it's complete bullshit and you're in Tom's camp and you think that Ian's a dick for saying that or whatever, at least we have something. And that's kind of, to my previous point, the part of playing the game of media in professional sport. I believe this comes down to his shock fading again, which has been a consistent issue with Tom and also all of the KTM group. I still have absolutely no idea why, and I've done a tiny bit of digging around for this, I can find no example of a KTM rider in MXGP in any class on any bike ever having a shock fade and ever mentioning it, ever. So I have no idea why that would be the case.
I know one or two sources claim failure, legitimately, like the term, not just fade, but failure has been attached to Tom's shock at least once this season. And I agree with you. It's interesting though because US is on more of a mix of components. A good chunk of the field is on the pro component shock you can buy publicly. I got to remember, I think Tom is one of the only people on the True Work shock, and there's a new gen and an old gen work shock, and I've seen like Aaron on the old gen one more, but I think Tom's on the newest one, which I think Malcolm's on. I got to go back and look at my Pitbits photos.
I've never heard Malcolm complain about a shock fading. He's the
No,
only one.
you know what? Malcolm's the only guy in the group. I gotta look at his bike in general, like where you've had Chase and Barsh on the KYB insert. It's like and their guys on air forks. Malcolm's just still on a traditional cone valve fork. He's been on work shock all year. Like he's the only guy that just doesn't move around. Tom's actually the only guy that's still on the old frame. He's the only guy this whole year that's ran it. He's on the old frame with the stiffer shock tower and other parts of the frame stiffer. He's the only guy that runs that one. However, like when I read Ian's comment, one part that kind of strikes me is this is back from Millville, another journalist that we all know is close with the Vialle camp, did mention to me that Tom had completely lost his faith in the team in terms of the bike. He had at that time was, this is around when you basically broke the news about the Honda MXGP deal being potential. He basically said, yeah, part of it is he has lost, it seems like, all faith in the team when it comes to the bike.
Yeah, I think that happened quite a while ago. Honestly, I'm sad because when Tom was leading that first moto, well, first of all, speaking of the first moto, it's quite clear there was an issue because he faded back to 11th, I think, and it was quite clear he was limping it home. So whatever was going on, it was quite clear that he was very much just in salvage mode. But when he was leading that first moto, I found myself kind of willing him on because I was like, what a great way to potentially end his pro motocross career on top. That would be so nice because it has been up and down. So I do feel sad for Tom that his pro motocross career has potentially ended in this, honestly, sad fashion. But again, there's no room for hearts in professional sport, I guess. I'll be very curious to see what Tom says on Instagram. I'll be very curious to see what Tom says at Charlotte, which, to be clear, because there's been a few people saying he's given up on KTM, he's going home. As far as I know, he is still racing the playoffs, and he's under contract for that, so there wouldn't be a way out, I wouldn't think. Like Prado is going to the playoffs, whether he's being chained to his Kawasaki or not. I also don't like the fact that now we're using Prado and Vialle in the same sentence so much, when in reality what Vialle has done and his situation is so much better than Prado's. But now Prado and Vialle has become a phrase that everyone's using.
Yeah, it's just sad because normally a situation like, okay, what happened to Tom is already kind of odd, if you want to call it walking away during the day, but like, in a sense, him and Chase has never stepped away mid-weekend, but to kind of have this awkward stepping away. Riders have had issues or a bad weekend, but it's not even on the level of, and that's why I think the Prado one gets beat to death. It's not on the level of what we've seen with Jorge and comments and things of that nature.
No.
They're on completely two different scales. Completely.
And I completely do believe that Vialle in himself felt that he was justified to make his decision. There's no way Vialle just went, no, I'm going to go. Right or wrong, I fully believe that Vialle didn't just make the decision on a whim to leave. But anyway, and then Juju, he was hanging out after the race, so it's not like he was in a hospital bed, but he hit his head quite hard, was knocked out again, which he was knocked out at Redbud or before Redbud? Around Redbud.
Was he knocked out in Supercross at some point too, or am I thinking it wrong?
Well, he didn't miss a Supercross, so I can't think when that would have been. But anyway, this is two concussions fairly close together. So he put on Instagram that he's going to see some doctors and figure out what a path forward is, which would make me think no SMX, which is a great shame because I was very excited to see what Juju would do in SMX because I really believe he would have come out firing. And I know that was his intention, to come out and kind of win, essentially. I think he was very much entering SMX with a win or bust mentality. So, KTM, you go first. Pass or fail?
Fail.
I still haven't really come to a conclusion, but
I'll give you a few more minutes.
I was going to say pass, and then I thought to myself, I took myself out of my own body and thought if I was watching this on YouTube and I heard me say pass, I'd probably be angry at me, so I'm going to say fail. I'm going to say fail. Although I do think that if I was in a court of law, I could present some facts which would maybe get this through as a sneaky pass. I do believe I could do that. But we're not in a court of law.
Okay, lawyer
It's just
Lewis.
a dumb podcast. But I do believe you could lean on some facts to just get the jury to approve it. Anyway, and speaking of KTM, they of course use Motorex oil. We could call this the Tom Vialle confusion corner. Motorex, known for high quality engine oils, also have an entire line of clean care and lube products to keep your bike running strong and looking great. Maintenance made easy with race proven clean care and lube products. Let's rattle through these two because they're quite simple. Husqvarna, pass. Agreed?
Yes. RJ and Malcolm seasons. If you eliminate the only inkling that even brings you there is Landon Gibson's pro debut, because otherwise RJ's 450 season, as we've talked about, is just a prime example of teams hopefully will start taking a chance more on 250 guys instead of sticking with the old guard. RJ has been phenomenal on the bike. Hopefully he carries this and builds on this next year because he can continue. I still don't think we've seen the best of RJ. I mean, let's go back to the fact that the man had surgery how many days before the opening round, Lewis? 6?
Yeah, you forget about that. And also,
was it 6 days? 10? Something like that? It was ridiculous.
It was within a 10-day window, so it can't have been.
Yeah. And he's.
But also, well, it's a pass because Malcolm met expectations, RJ exceeded them. So on average, that gives you a pass.
And this goes back to, think about a year or two ago. I know more you and Kellen argue about this, kind of the state of Malcolm's career at one point. I wouldn't even say pass. Like, I give it a slight nod above that for Malcolm. But then RJ, again, is just aces for them.
Malcolm's start was very rough, but then from like round 6 on, he has really found some nice consistency from the 6 to 8 range. So the second half has been very nice. The first half was very shaky. And my only comment on RJ is our post-race interview with him is fairly open about spring forks, air forks, SMX setup, MX setup. It, to be honest, got quite confusing to follow because there was a lot of like, I'm on air, I'm going to spring because I don't like air, but I do like air, but I do. There was a lot, but it is quite revealing. But he did say, he did say quite bluntly, do not expect me to be as good as I am right now at the start of SMX. So there's your warning. GasGas. You go first with GasGas.
Fail.
Okay, I give them a pass. Because anyone you speak to, they're working out of a hospitality rig. It really doesn't sound like they're much of a team who's...
It's kind of funny because I was going to argue this when it got brought up because it was OEM based, but if it was team based, I was going to argue how do we separate Husky and GasGas, because they're, as much as they try, they are technically the same team. But GasGas is this awkwardly in the hospitality, like I said, they're awkwardly over in the hospitality rig, but they share a lot of the staff. It's kind of awkward a little bit.
Barsha would tell you that like there's not much effort going into finishing outdoors strong. So I just give them a pass on the fact that they showed up.
See, that's a tough one because there's a part where I want to be like pass because they were able to get it done, but fail because it's a factory team and the resources maybe weren't managed correctly how it should have been for those guys. Ryder D's summer was kind of an up and down mess without maybe, I don't know. I guess it had more. Does it have more bright side than Juju's? Yes, he had, because of the qualifying.
Juju had top 5s. Multiple.
Yeah, I guess I'm going off that time. The time qualifying from Redbud was one of the outliers for Ryder's summer. I think it's also like the reason I say fail is also kind of the comments. Not that Justin hasn't said anything that's wrong or really out of place, but kind of that whole like we're just existing over here, man. We're just existing kind of vibe. Yep.
And so then how can you? I mean. I almost want to give them an ungraded, but that's unfair. No, I think Barsha
under further consideration.
Barsha has been fine since his return, like certainly not bad. And Ryder D has been up and down, but then knowing like he has been struggling with starts, he has been struggling with the bike. Like his results have been very start dependent, and the bike was by all accounts slow to begin with. So like. But then you're not judging the rider, you're judging the team, so the team should have made the bike better. I don't know. I guess fail. I guess I'm changing because of that. But yeah, I think Barsha was fine, and I think Ryder D did have flashy points, including the last 2 rounds where he went 8-9. No, you know what? I'm back to pass. I'm back to pass. And then, unless I'm forgetting a manufacturer, finally...
No, you're forgetting a manufacturer.
Well, no, finally Triumph. But apart from Triumph, with
Suzuki?
Come
Ducati?
on. Do we do TM at this point? Like, no, I'm joking. We will do Suzuki. I did forget about Suzuki. Fail.
Fail.
Okay, we've done Suzuki. Finally, Triumph. Triumph is another difficult one, to be honest. Like, Triumph is in the Yamaha and KTM category of me. I could really go both ways.
Pass.
What did you expect? Like, one podium. Would you not have expected more than that? Across everyone?
It's more the like progress in terms of Jalik's outright raw pace. Jordan, a lot of flashes, a lot of negatives. Dragging Austin out of the pit of despair he was in, I almost did not think was possible at one point. Mikkel brought some very bright moments to it. I think part of why I'm basing off is they've been in a low point, before this with the debut seasons and riders exiting the program and things of that nature. So I think for the most part, other than I guess Jalik, dang it. I lean more towards pass than fail. I think there was enough to drag out of it where I see a positive end of this. I guess I hate to say it, my expectations were a little low coming into pro motocross for them.
Would you be surprised if I told you that Jordan was in the top 10 at only 4 rounds overall?
No, that doesn't surprise me. He paired one good moto with one shit moto almost all the year. Was it this last week, the weekend before? It was the C2 results from him that were single digit was like a miracle at one point.
I guess he's out now, but I guess you do forget that Harrop was really good consistently. Faulkner had good points. Swole was obviously great. Jordan's been good. Jordan had a mechanical in the second moto. I don't know what it was. I guess they said that a wire came loose or something. I don't know. And Faulkner was just relieved to finish the season, which, to be fair, fair play. Yep.
Something he hasn't done anywhere else. That's almost a pass or intro. If you looked at him, you will get Austin Faulkner through a full season. More
surprising. Imagine if you said at the start of Outdoors, or at the start of Supercross, there's only one Triumph rider who will race every race, and it's Austin Faulkner.
Again, that is.
Imagine putting money on that. You'd won massive. I certainly wouldn't be doing this podcast. I'd be in a helicopter over my private island. Okay, I'll go pass as well. But I do think it's close. I do think it's on the edge. 60% pass. Well, we're only just over the cusp.
I said pass just because I had already thought about it too much, but it's not an easy pass. Don't get me wrong.
So what else do we need to discuss? We're done with Suzuki. Don't try and bring up Suzuki.
Yeah, no, we're not Suzuki. I guess I wanted to ask you, what do you think this season will be remembered for? Looking back on a couple of years, like what are the top 2 or 3 storylines now that it's all wrapped, said and done?
I think it'll be remembered as a pretty predictable season where Jett and Haiden did exactly what we expected. Like, honestly, maybe you remember it for Chase's drama, for lack of a better word. Maybe you remember it for Eli's dip, for lack of a better word. But ultimately, I think this year will just go, or this season will just go down as one of those where, the dominant guys won, so who cares?
I think some of this year will be tied. It will be remembered more after what happens in the next year or two, and part of that will be the Eli answer. Is he able to rebound from this, or was this the beginning? I hate to say this so harshly, but was this the beginning of the end? You know what I mean? Like that, this season could be tied to that if he is unable to get onto the top step of his career again in that sense. Because, like, I'm not saying he won't win again. Like, if you tell me he's never going to win again, I'm going to be mind blown. But if he's not able to, consistently be in the hunt for a championship, this year could get referenced. And then we still have to wait to see how the Jorge Prado saga in general goes down, which we won't have that answer for another, not only year, but just as his career kind of evolves in general here in the U.S. is how does 22 get referenced into that? I think will be a part of it.
Finally, I think we should discuss this because this didn't kind of come up.
Yeah.
The penalties in the first moto. I don't get it. I don't understand how Joe and Haiden can be penalised one spot each, but somehow that puts Davies from third to first?
Because Pelletier explained it is you go off lower order. So the first person that you would penalize is Joe.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then because Joe gets bumped down, then Cole gets moved up, but then Haiden gets penalized next, moved down, then that bumps Cole up.
Yeah, Joe was ahead of Haiden at the time, right?
No, it's based off finishing because it's it's a post race penalty. The position penalty is handed out post race, so the first person is handed out to is the lower result, which is Joe.
Well, that makes sense. Why would you go lower first? Surely you'd just work from the top of the list down, wouldn't you?
He said it works down to up for penalties.
That's weird. I could have made sense of it if Joe was ahead of Deegan and was the first one who made the mistake or whatever you want to call it. So you penalise him first, which then puts Davies in second. When that could make sense to me.
I think if this was F1, like if you look at it from if you had some sort of a mid-race penalty, but again, these are post-race penalties, so it's all based off of finishing order. Because if you went off of anything else, you would basically end up with Joe gets penalized, moves down. Haiden gets penalized, moves down. Joe goes back up, other way around. Haiden gets penalized, goes down, then Joe, and if you went top down, you could have guys just switch off and end up right back where they started.
Well, equally then, I'm more confused by this, and I'm certain you won't have an answer for this one. If you look at the 250 Moto 1 results, it says, notes, number 1, penalised 1 position for passing on a red cross and... Oh, no, hold on. I've just completely realised I was reading it wrong. I was going to... Vialle, Benick, and whoever 788 is...
Got +5.
...were penalised points, but that was because they jumped on the red cross.
Yes.
The issue was that Haiden and Joe passed on the red cross as well as jumped. Okay.
Yeah, they brought up Pelletier during that weird long red flag replay. They explained that in depth on the TV broadcast. I have one other question for you about the championship looking back as a whole, and I'm not trying to take away from Hayden's situation, but one other storyline from the championship, do you take away at all that I know we're talking about opportunities for guys now that Haiden is leaving the class, but there's also the part I've made the joke multiple times, more in Supercross, but I sometimes say, I feel like nobody else in this class, in the 250 class, wants to win a championship because they can't put together races to save their life. Is there a part of you that it all looks at Hayden's championship and is him winning, of course, was the default, or not the default, he had to win, but like the championship favorite, the most obvious storyline. But the fact that he didn't have a real title rival across the championship whatsoever kind of caught me off guard.
I've just been, my phone has just blown up saying check Instagram, Prado's post. Oh my God. So hold on, I'm going to read this live on the air. P6 overall for the Pro Motocross standings. It was a very tough season to say the least. Cruising around every single race was heartbreaking for me, especially knowing my capabilities. Never felt comfortable on the bike, not even a bit. This build... Oh my God. This builds to an unsafe feeling on it. Didn't expect this year to go this way at all. Happy to be in one piece and fit. Hopefully we're back where we belong soon. Well, I don't think Prado's going to be on a Kawasaki much longer. Well, there we go.
Cruising around every single...
Never felt comfortable on the bike. Honestly, the worst part of that whole bit is not even a bit. Like that's saying that we like.
I'm clicking onto the form right now.
Well, I think that's confirmation of the Prado Kawasaki relationship probably not lasting much longer. Because I know of a rider.
How's SMX looking?
I know of a rider in the last 2 weeks who almost had their social media clause of their contract implemented for a post that was much mellower than that. So I'd imagine there's got to be a social media clause in Prado's contract that's probably being...
Well, I mean, even before this, somebody on the team told me, based on what's been said, even in prior interviews, that they 100% had the ability to fire him.
Oh, liked by Tom Vialle. Look at that.
Wait, are you serious or was that a joke?
No, it is. But then so is it. Like, there's loads of people. Like, I just liked it. Like, yeah, sure, all right, Jorge. You can have a like. Like, you know? Okay, well, thanks, Jorge. Thanks for that, really. I mean, you know what? similar to what I said about Ian, whether you think that's a dick post or not, whether you believe that that's true or not, I respect the transparency and I respect him saying how he feels. Fair?
Fair.
Like, I would much rather have that than not outdoors just wasn't my season. We're gonna keep building, you know. Like, like whether you want to call Prado a massive dick or say that that's all bullshit or who does he think he is. Fair play for speaking your truth, and I think I can get on board with that with every single rider and every single team. Whatever you believe to be fact on your side, say it. Like, stay true to yourself. Yeah, sorry, I completely forgot now what you were talking about before honestly,
I don't know.
I got 4 text messages in 2 minutes just saying Prado's post. So, caught my attention.
Really, I didn't notice at all.
Okay, let me ask you this, and I think this is a fairly simple question: who was more impressive en route to their title, Jett or Haiden? I go Jett all day.
Yeah.
Jett was unbelievable.
That's why I'm saying it kind of comes off the comment I made, and it's not. It's not a negative against him, but the fact that he didn't 250 class younger group all speed, just the fact that nobody contended in any real shape or form against him is kind of shocking to me. It kind of shows to me like the lack of consistency with competitors in a sense. We know 450 you're into the top tier, so that's not to take away anything from Hayden's title at all. Please do not mistake that. But yeah, I give it to Jett.
Okay, well, I think that's us done, right?
Yeah, I gotta post some shit now.
Thanks, Jorge. Right,
Thanks for
you.
That. Thanks for that,
you know
Jorge.
what? I didn't actually talk about
great.
DeCal Works. I missed that opportunity in the KTM portion. DecalMX.com for customizable graphics, plastics, seat covers, accessories, casual and apparel. There's so much there. And again, keyword, all customizable. So head over there, DecalMX.com, have a play, see what you can do to spice up your bike a little bit. And yeah, DecalWorks.com, thank you. Or sorry, DecalMX.com, DeCal Works, thank you to them for supporting all that we do at Vital MX with our post-race content. They are, of course, very, very busy right now working on some Team USA graphics for Chase Sexton because that is coming up. But first, the SMX post-season. Yes, the playoffs are right around the corner. I'm honestly excited for them. Very much so, I have to admit, and that's, again, not bullshit. So we will be back in 10 days' time, 14 days' time, whatever it is, to recap the first playoff and see what a new season has in store. Thank you for watching and listening, and we will see you real soon.